This is the Note Closers Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closers Show. Excited to have you, whether you're watching live or listening in on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever avenue that you listen to on the podcast. We are excited to have you today. Join us and listen in. We are today's topic is something I think is very important that every entrepreneur needs to know. Every person needs to know this. And it comes down to a couple things that we'll dive into. But first and foremost, it's a very busy day here in the office. We are working on a couple of things. I'm honored. I'm speaking this weekend at the Quest IRA Boot Camp in Houston, Texas. We're looking forward to that. Over 200 people are going to be at it. So we're really excited to share our knowledge on notes and kind of why we love the sexy side of real estate with NPNs. So if you're going to be out that, look forward to meeting you there and interacting with you, networking, and sharing some good nuggets with you. But we are also in lockdown mode here in the offices. We are working through, we started off with how many bids, Jen? 200. 200 plus bids. We're now down to about 80 that we've got finally accepted on or countered back and forth. So we are in a lockdown mode to get closed on another chunk of assets for our own portfolio. Now, these assets are all stuff where the borrower has made payments in the last 6 to 12 months. They're still behind. Yes, they're contract for deeds, but we're in basically the final valuation phase of these things. So Greg and Nicole and Jen are all tracking down people to drive by and pull values for us on this final stuff as we get ready to close it. So pretty stoked about it. Another big trade for us this year. Funding amount should be over $1 million roughly, somewhere between $1 million, $1.2 million. Looking pretty forward to it because we're having a lot of success still with the most recent trade where we bought 70 over the last 90 days and we've gotten borrower outreach with 50 plus of those. You know, we got 20 of those that are basically going to our friends of the law office of Daniel Singer with Daniel Singer and Joel Markovitz going to be doing a little bit more extensive borrower reach out or starting the eviction process. Now, what's great too is we've had several borrowers that approach us that want to get cashed out, or one borrower has a friend that wants to take over payment subject to and take over the property. That's always good. We'll discuss a couple of those case studies here over the next couple of days and some of the amazing stuff with that as well. Just a lot of good stuff happening, right, Jen?
Yes.
You have to speak up, Jen. Sorry. You're too far away from the microphone for people here. You're too mellow. Speak up or forever hold your peace. There you go.
No, we have officially total gotten in right at about 8,000 in borrower reinstatements just this month, or since the 12th of this month.
Because the 12th of this month, we got over just right at $8,000 in payments on that stuff, and we're still collecting on those.
That's only on like 13 loans.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, a lot of our borrowers are set up. You know, there was a delay in a lot of stuff with the servicing being transferred. The previous servicer did not send out their goodbye letters in a timely fashion, or still haven't for a big chunk of them. So we've had to work through our best to reach out to the borrowers. The seller servicing company didn't communicate effectively with Madison Management in a timely fashion either. So Madison was sitting there on their thumbs trying to do some things. So it's been I have to give a big shout out to Jen here and Nicole and Greg, really doing a great job of communicating with the borrowers. Jen's ready for her cell phone, her phone to quit ringing, right?
Yes. So we're about to start all over again. So.
Yeah, she's excited. Can you sense the excitement in her voice? Woo! The beautiful thing about some of the things that we're working on, I think we've got a little bit more of a streamlined series of things down for everything. So we've tweaked a few systems in our office here. We've added a new software program that I think you will enjoy, make it a little bit easier for you, and some other things. So we're pretty excited about that. But today is all about knowing your value. You got to know your value. Now, you've probably heard the saying, nobody will respect your time until you start respecting your time. Nobody will value you until you start valuing yourself. And this is important because I see a lot of entrepreneurs who are doing really below minimum wage work. They're doing minimum wage jobs, okay? And if you're sitting at home listening on a podcast, or you're sitting there watching us on the Facebook live streams, or watching this on YouTube or Vimeo on the replay, do yourself a favor. Pull out a piece of paper and work through this with me. Figure out what you value your time at right now. All right? Now, there's a way to do this. Now, if you get an hourly rate, there you go. You get an hourly rate. It's kind of what your value is. Now, you have to look at is where you want to be and compare that. And the way to get from where you're at today to where you want to be down the road is simple. You have to start delegating off the things that are below your pay grade. So let's run a formula here. So let's say you want to make $100,000. A lot of people want to make six figures. Okay, so take $100,000, divide that by, let's just say, that's the easiest way. Divide that by 50 because there's 50 weeks in the year, and everybody usually takes 2 weeks off. All right, week around Christmas and a week in the summer. So you take $100,000 divided by 50 weeks. That should come to $2,000 per week. Okay. Now, if your goal is to make $2,000 per week, now you then divide that number by the number of hours you want to work. And no, don't put just 4 hours in like the Tim Harris 4-hour work week. That's great in philosophy, but in theory, not so good. Not initially. Now, if you're making $1 million, that's a different story. You can sit back and not do anything for a long time. But so we're talking $2,000 a week. Divide that by 40 hours a week. Okay. Then that means you're worth about $50 an hour. That's what you need to value your time at. Now, how do you get to that point? Well, you have to stop doing things below your pay grade. So, and this is the hardest thing that most entrepreneurs struggle with, especially control freaks. And I throw my hat in the game because I'm one of the biggest control freaks out there. And it's something that I have struggled with in the past. I've gotten a lot better at it, but still things that I struggle with. And it's in the delegation and the outsourcing. That's the way that you boost your time frame, you boost your hourly worth to get to where you want to be. And what do I mean by that? Well, instead of you doing, say, a $7.50 job, doing something that would take you to pay somebody $7 or $10 or $12 to do, and so you doing it, you pay somebody else to do it. Why is that important? Well, yes, if it takes them an hour to do it and you only have to pay them $15 to do it, and you're valuing yourself at $50 an hour, if you did it, you just lost $35. If you had them do it and you're able to take that hour and maximize that hour, you're now sitting up and getting $65 worth of stuff done. Or realistically, $85 because you didn't lose $35. Does that make sense?
Everybody's agreeing.
Everybody's agreeing. Okay, good. That's good. So that's the important thing. Take that hourly thing. What's your hour worth to you? And start applying it to your daily activities. What are you doing during your workday to maximize that hourly rate? All right. Now, one of the biggest things that I see new entrepreneurs with, and I only say this because I was horrible at this, is when people leave their job or quit working for the man or doing their own thing, the freedom of entrepreneurship can strangle you, literally can strangle you. Because sometimes you're sitting there not knowing what to do. You don't have somebody there to tell you, hey, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. And I see a lot of people take the 2-hour lunches. And I used to be very guilty of this. I would drive 10, 20 minutes to come meet somebody for lunch. Lunches never take right an hour and a half, and then I get an hour and a half back. That's 2.5 hours, or at least 2 hours that I shot out of my day. All right? And if it was just a social thing, that was literally, if your hourly rate's $50, that's $100 you just blew there. All right? And then if people were going to meet you and they're late and it drags on, then it's 2.5, 3 hours. That's a good chunk of the day. That's a third of your day gone on lunch. Not alone if you travel. If you have long commutes, and God knows people here in Austin and other areas have longer commutes. I used to travel an hour one way. A lot of times from Round Rock, Texas, down to South Austin, Slaughter Lane. That's a brutal commute. Yes, Nicole's already putting the proverbial gun to her head over there because she lives in Round Rock and knows that, right? Boom. All right. Not alone, that would be about an hour to drive anyway. Then you add traffic to it, that's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. Not fun. So that's what you have to look at. And I see people doing, we just calculated somebody's doing basically a $1.45 an hour job. You know, you're working, if you're putting in 30, 40, 50 hours into a project and you're only going to pay like $100 off it, effectively you're making $2 an hour. That's not bad. I mean, waiters make $2.15 an hour. Woo, you're right there with waiters, okay? What I'm trying to get at here is you have to be smart with what you're doing. You have to learn to delegate. And I know that's difficult for a lot of people because like, oh, they're not going to do as good a job as I would. Yeah, I agree with that. So maybe they only do 60, 70 cents or 60 to 70% as good as you would do, but at least it's completed. In the words of, I can't remember who used to say this, delivered is better than perfect. Because if you're a control freak and you got to wait till it's perfect before you do anything, it costs you money not to get it delivered. This is why you often see companies that will have a version of something come out and then they have version 1.2, 1.3, because they want to get the product to market and know they can make the quick additions and fix either software updates or anything like that in the coming weeks. It gets delivered and they can upgrade things as they go. The same goes for a lot of us as entrepreneurs with our marketing. A lot of people, I got to work on my Facebook page, or I got to work on my website, or I got to work on my emails during the day. Look, those aren't income generating activities you should be doing during the day. Those are things you do off hours. Okay. And that's one thing you have to look at. What are you doing each day? Now, if you're going out to an event, like a networking event, you have to make sure it's worth your time. All right. Going and spending an hour, you probably have an hour commute, half hour there, half hour back, whatever. An hour there. You've got to make sure it's worth the time. And what's that mean? How do you make it worth the time? You pick up business cards, you make connections, and you take care of things there as far as leveraging your time in your database. You always try to find somebody that can add a bonus to you, but you also want to be of value to other people as well. So what I always crack up is when I see people that go to a network event and they hide. They hide in the corner or they hide in a chair. They don't get to talk to anybody. They're not going to really maximize their time to make things happen. It looks like we've got a question. So Nicole, what's the first question out there?
Yeah, Matthew Hell asked, how does one come up with the money when you first start to delegate?
Oh, that's a great question there, Matthew Hell. So yeah, how do you pay for things when you're on a shoestring budget? Well, a couple ways. One is you use virtual assistants, a VA, to do some of the things that you are doing. VAs are pretty cheap, $4 an hour. You can often hire them on Upwork.com or Fiverr.com to make things happen. Initially, sometimes you're going to have to do things yourselves. I get that. I'll give you an example. When I first started on things, I would mow my lawn, all right, because it was cheaper for me to mow my lawn initially for me to do it than to pay somebody to come do it. And then as I got better at what I did, it became more valuable for me to hire the kid down the street for $25 or $50 to do it for 2 hours. Well, I could spend time marketing. So that's the biggest thing. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say, well, I can't afford a full-time assistant. I can't afford to pay somebody 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour. Well, if you're at a point where you look at your day, and one of the easiest things to do during your day to find out what you're doing is literally just make a list, pull out a piece of paper, jot it down by hour or every 15 minutes, and track what you're doing on a daily basis. Probably 30 minutes is probably good. You get down to 15 minutes, you're going to spend more time filling in the chart than you actually be doing things. But you'll see what you're doing. If you find yourself fluffing off, I'll give you an example. Prime workout hours are basically from 9 a.m. to 5, 6 p.m. All right? Now, if you're on the East Coast, you may want to work a couple hours later if a lot of your West Coast connections. All right? We're in Austin, Texas. We're kind of in the middle. So staff doesn't have to be here till 9. I usually roll around 9:30, sometimes 9 o'clock, sometimes early, depending on what's going on. But when I work a late night, I come in at 10 or 9:30. But my staff is knowing what they're doing. They're always working on things, whether it's working on files or marketing or due diligence or portfolio stuff. We always talk, hey, what are you guys working on today, right? It's one of the first things we talk about. Hey, what are you guys working on today? All right? And I have things that I work on too, and then I delegate. Yeah, can I jump on and do due diligence better than just about anybody? You bet I can. Doesn't mean it's worth my best use of time. Maybe I'm delegating to a third-party source to do a lot of the initial due diligence for a flat fee, okay? that's what's important, is if I can delegate my time out to make things happen, the better off it's getting. And sometimes maybe it's bringing on a partner at first, where you're splitting up your cost, your time, what you're doing, your activities to make things sure that things happen and get done in a timely fashion. The big thing about partnerships is I rarely see partnerships of 3 or more succeed successfully. 2 people usually work well. You start getting to 3, I can tell you, we've had several people come through our fast track of their partnerships with 3 people. They don't end up lasting. We've actually had a couple get divorced here at our fast track training before, and it was actually a better thing for all parties involved. Okay? Question?
Yes. Eric High says, what things do you farm out? It seems that due diligence would be the hardest thing since he knows what his criteria is.
So that's a great question, Eric Hyde. When you're delegating due diligence, what you have to do is make a list of what your criteria is. Make a list of your criteria. Better yet, you could film a video of you working through your due diligence. So that's a guide, like a video training guide for your VAs. That's a really easy thing to do. Literally just going through and having your list mapped out. Many of you guys like that we did the due diligence list. The due diligence checklist. It's a very simple thing. A lot of people have used that as the backbone to their own video training to their VAs or their staff to help them understand and farm it out. The idea is that once you know how fast it takes to do an asset, as far as time frame to pull the numbers, it's pretty easy to then, okay, it takes me 5 minutes, you're gonna do 50 assets, that's 250 minutes. Should take you 4 hours to knock this out, or 5 hours, right? Now, the way that people and your assistants and VAs get better is to give them feedback. If they do it shitty the first time around, it's because it's your fault, not their fault. It's your fault because you didn't take the time to educate them or coach them or teach them or train them specifically. And everybody's going to screw up at first. Guys, we've all screwed up, right?
Oh, yes.
And usually, if you guys do mess up on something, I will say, wait, that's my fault because I didn't train you properly. Have I not said that?
Yes.
Okay? I don't say it very often because you guys are so good at what you do, but but there has been times like, oh, I should have told you otherwise. I know Greg and I've discussed that on some of the PowerPoint things and stuff like that, and that's normal. It's going to happen. What's good is I can give them a task and they run with it. And if it's sometimes it's better than I would do. Other times it's 85, 90% of exactly what I do, but I can tweak it a little bit to get that final 5 or 10% good. But 80% is much better because I have 3 people doing jobs instead of me being the only person that does that. Now, a good assistant, a good VA should start paying for themselves almost immediately. How should they pay for themselves? Well, just the extra work getting done, the extra things you get to either, if you have them work on your marketing or help them do some things maybe you have somebody that's better at their social media skills than you are, so you have them do that. Or if somebody completes the website while you're sitting around running around like a chicken with your head cut off. The biggest thing you have to look at, maybe they're also getting postcards or mailers out to your database in a timelier fashion, or they're spending time connecting with more people on LinkedIn for you. Some of the initial things that I had VAs do is spend time on my LinkedIn. Okay, go on here and find people that fall into this category and go and add connections to these people. And after they did it for a while, I took them off of it because it was kind of manifesting itself. Another thing that I had people do is like, okay, when I first started my Twitter profile, I said, let's go find 2,000 of the people that have the biggest real estate databases or real estate activity or real estate profiles on Twitter, and let's connect with them. And that's helped because that boosted my Twitter following to 18,000 now from the initial 2,000. You don't have to give them a lot of jobs. Initially, yes, it's difficult for you to find 10, 20 hours. But if you just get somebody to do 5 hours of work or 10 hours of work, or you share an assistant, you and a partner or you and an entrepreneur co-hire an assistant for 10 hours a week, 10 hours for you, 10 hours for them, it's going to help. I mean, maybe it's just going through the mail, all right? Going through your mail and helping you out with some things. Maybe it's just, I hate to say this, but running errands for you, going and dropping off your dry cleaning, picking up your dry cleaning, running to the bank, making a deposit, running to Office Depot. There's specific things that we all can do to maximize our day. What you have to realize, though, too, everybody, is if you set yourself a low value, so a lot of times people aren't going to respect you because they're not going to value your time. They're just going to it's not worth anything. This is why free has no value. If you offer up something for free, oftentimes there's no value to free. People, it's free. There's no investment by them. That's why if you host an event, like a networking event, and you make it free, you're not going to see a lot of continued activity to it. But if you charge a membership fee where it's $100 or $20 a visit or something like that, you're going to see more value because people like pay, they've got to invest into it. Now, it is important for you to add value to that, okay? But this is what I see this happen all the time. Oh, I'm going to do a networking event that's free. I'm not going to charge for a networking event. I don't want to do that. Well, you know what? You're not right there immediately. You put a value on that event or in that group. It's not worth anything. Yeah, if it's a lunchtime event, I get that, or breakfast time event, yeah, people got to eat, and that's the one thing. If you have food and drink to it, great. But you will also have if you're going to be providing food and drink, better watch out. You're going to have the prize pigs that show up. And by the prize pigs, I mean that people that just show up for the free crap, and that's it. Okay? And I will tell you this, if you're going to do an event of some sort, don't ever do it for free. I've done an event where I gave workshops and to boost people being there and give away free tickets. Biggest mistake ever made. I would have rather have had 10 people at the event that paid versus 100 people that didn't pay. Okay? Because it cost me. My time is worth something, and you have to realize it. If you're doing something and you're only going to charge $100 or $200 or $300 for something, and you put a lot of time into it, you're effectively telling your audience it's not really worth it because there's no value there. It's only worth $300. It's only worth $500. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes workshops, you'll see workshops that are 3 days, stuff like that. But if you can do it where it maximizes it, like what we have done with us going virtual, that's maximized our hour. It helped us do a couple of things. It helped us not only delegate and cut out a lot of the overhead of losing days of traveling and costs and overhead to print up and rent a hotel and all that stuff to minimize it just to be in the office here. That allowed us to drop our price down some to make it more affordable for investors, for people to be able to join in and get that feedback. But my time is still worth something for 3 days of my time or 4 days of my time. You have to look at your schedule and realize that too. What's it worth to you? Now, sometimes I have invested in something that was expensive that I knew that once I walked out of it, I would have a lot of amazing tools or connections or tricks. That's why I think masterminds are very important for things. I've a part of several masterminds, right? Yes, they're not cheap. They're extremely expensive, but the relationships and the things that I walk out of it make it valuable. I'll give you an example. The ticket for the digital marketer conference that I went to was about $700, $750 to go to. It's already paid for itself 10 times over. It's already paid for itself because of a couple of things I implemented had boosted traffic. It's boosted opt-ins. It's boosted our audience growing and providing things, which in turn is going to help us maximize our hour. This is why I'm such a big proponent of emailing and getting your marketing out, because you can then have one conversation with many versus one-on-one conversations. Now, don't get me wrong, the one-on-many leads to individual conversations, but it's a lot more effective than spending, okay, I'm going to have one conversation with this guy, and one conversation with this guy, and one conversation with this guy. You're never going to get out of those conversations to get back to do what you need to do. Do you have any more questions or comments?
Yeah, Laura Blanc.
Hey, Laura, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, Laura.
She says there's something we said whether someone is willing to invest in education or just chase free stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I get being on a limited budget, and sometimes you don't have the money to sign up for something. I get that. It just takes time, all right? You have to look at what are you doing, and have you set yourself, are you working at McDonald's as a fry cook, okay? Yeah, you're not going to be making too much money. This is why education is so important. It's like going to school and doing something, or getting a technical degree, or getting something to better yourself is so important, because then you start doing higher valued jobs. Law school, let's talk about lawyers. Average fee of an attorney is about $250 an hour. All right, about $250 an hour. They're going to charge you whatever they do they're phenomenal at charging for hours. Okay, it's funny, but you have to keep that in mind. And we get a lot of phone calls here. I talk to a lot of people. Look, somebody can call and pick my brain. If I don't know them out of the blue, they can call and pick my brain for half an hour. I'm always glad to answer questions and talk with people for 30 minutes. But after 30 minutes, it better start turning into something else, or I'm going to start, listen, I've got another meeting I got to go to. I got another phone call I got to make. My time is value. So what I want you to do right now, for those of you that calculated your hour, 100 grand, I want you to do it in reverse. I want you to take whatever your hourly rate was and double it. So if your hourly rate was to make 100 grand this year, that would be roughly come down to roughly, what do we say, $50 an hour, right? Well, if you were to take $100 an hour, okay, and redo your hours, it would be 200 grand. That's great. You double your money. Okay. What you have to realize though is if you start delegating to people, delegating out to assistants, delegating out to VAs, you should do more than double the output. Honestly, a very good assistant, a very good employee, a very good somebody that helps you with things, whether it's a virtual assistant or somebody that's in an office or an assistant, should be worth 6 figures to you. They should help you, maybe not the first year, but by the second year, be putting that money in your pocket because, A, they're valuable in other ways, whether it's closing deals or due diligence or helping with the market do other things. It should help you. And every successful entrepreneur I've ever talked with, and I would agree to this, all right? Your staff, the people you have surround you, is good. This is why labor is usually the biggest cost, biggest bottom line for companies, because they've got to have those people to put things in place. And yes, when a company lays people off, that's a very hard thing. It puts the stress and burden on the rest around there because now they're not doing the most efficient things possible. Now they're having to do the work of 2 people, and that's not always going to work. All right, everybody? You have to realize you have to start delegating off the things that don't make sense. If that means you don't mow your yard, you give it to the kid down the street. It means you don't change your oil if it's faster for you to take it to Jiffy Lube for $19. Okay? Now, if you see things that would cost you more than your hourly rate that you could do yourself, okay, that makes sense to jump in there and do that. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're handy with a mechanic stuff, and I'll give you an example. I've been pretty handy in my past. Most people would not believe that, but I've been pretty handy. When I was getting started, I had a 90 Mustang 5.0. This thing hauled ass, but needed a new front end, okay? And I didn't, I wasn't making as much money. I was doing okay, but I wasn't near what I needed to be. So it made more sense for me to fix the front end myself than pay somebody to do it because I could knock it out. And I did it, fixed it. Thing drove fine afterwards. It was all fixed. It was a messy work. It was basically, I did it over a weekend, but I got it done. All right. And it was more valuable to me at that time to get it done, save that money because I could do something that was above my pay grade. Now, you have to look at what you're doing. If you go back and look at your list of what you're doing every half hour to hour, start making a notice. Well, what can I delegate? Can I give that to somebody to do? Can I give that to somebody to do? Can I find a VA to do that information for me? And then what that will do is it'll separate you into A and B activities. A are activities that you need to be doing. B are activities are the ones that you need to delegate out to. All right. And maybe, like I said before, maybe it's not you delegating all the way. Maybe you're, talking to somebody else. Somebody else is an accountability partner for you. And maybe you guys hire somebody a little bit each time, or you bring on somebody to help you out with. Okay. Maybe instead of you stuffing envelopes, postcards, you get the niece or nephew or son or daughter to stuff it, okay? Instead of you spending time on the due diligence stuff, maybe you jump online and have a VA pull that stuff for you. Whatever it is, at $4 an hour is a lot cheaper. It's money saved. It also allows you to go out and do that extra $50 an hour time frame. All right? Questions, comments from anybody?
No,
Not anymore? Not yet right now?
no.
They're busy calculating their hourly rate on things like that. The biggest thing I could tell you guys is you have to look at your day. And this comes down to if you're chasing different squirrels too. If you find in your day that you're not focused on one thing, that you're drifting, you're doing a variety of things that's not effective, not really getting anywhere, and you're just spinning your wheels, you got to have a kind of come to Jesus meeting. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, what am I really focused on? Am I chasing 2 different things? And that's really, really, really difficult sometimes for some people to do, because sometimes you have to give up some things to be more efficient. Sometimes you have to give up on some of the money-making things you're doing to make more money on something long-term. And when I think I've shared this a couple of times before, but I'll share it again. When I was starting off as a real estate entrepreneur and doing things, I was literally back doing a variety of things. I was doing some short sale deals. I was doing some wholesale deals. I was doing some rentals. I was just trying to make a buck. Okay. And I see people that do that. Oh, I'm trying to do all these things, and I'm trying to, wholesale deals. I'm trying to get some subject to deal. Look, if you're chasing multiple rabbits, you'll catch none of those. It's a Russian proverb, I think. He who chases two rabbits catches none. All right. So at some point, you've got to sit down things off of the side that aren't making you money and focus on what's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. What's making you money? Okay. What's going to make you money, and be focused that way and go that route. Sometimes you've got to let go of those other things for a while to get things up and running. Yes, it can be kind of scary, but I guarantee if you're holding on to a safety net or you're holding on to something, it's probably limiting you. I know people that are still working at jobs that if they were to let go and be focused on 100%, they make a whole lot more money because they've already proved they can close deals. They've closed 10, 15, 20 deals. They can do that. And yes, I know some people like to hang around jobs because of health care or benefits. But at some point, you're letting others dictate to you what they value you as versus what you value yourself. And nobody out there at all is going to start valuing you for your higher dollar value or what you're really worth until you do that. And that's where it comes in. Hey, I'm no longer going to take the 2-hour lunches. I'm no longer going to do this. I'm no longer going to waste time doing these stupid activities. Don't get me wrong. There are some times in the middle of the day, I like to just take off and let's go to a movie. I'll take the 2 hours to rest because I've done a good job for the week, or I've worked so many days straight or weekends straight, or worked late at night getting some stuff done. Okay. That's okay to do. It's okay to have some downtime. It's okay to go on those date nights with your spouse. It's okay to go out and recharge. You need those. Sometimes those hours are valuable to you. Like me, I like to take an hour middle of the day, noon to 1, and usually work out with my trainer. That's very valuable to me to do. It's worth that hour to get things done because I do have the staff that's working through things, getting things done while I'm at the gym. And I can come home and recharge for the afternoon or the evening, especially if it's like Monday night or other things we have going on. So biggest thing I can tell you, it's kind of, as Aaron Young, our good buddy from Lawful and Associates, will often say, it's like unshackling yourself. The minute you can delegate off a lot of stuff, it allows for you to have a lot more freedom and unshackle you from the smaller things that just waste your time. And if you can delegate anything off, start delegating because you'll start valuing your hour more. Maybe it's only boosting you by $5 an hour, but hey, those are activities you can give to somebody else to do, and you can boost your time, your connections, and your activities to give you more time to do the most income generating things. You'll be a whole lot happier off. Okay. Questions from anybody? Comments? All right. Now listen, I get the need for a job sometimes. There have been times I stopped doing what I was doing and I had to take a job for a period. Okay. And I've done some crazy jobs. I worked one time after I got laid off from a job earlier on in my life. Oh my gosh. I was delivering packages for FedEx home delivery, getting paid $1 for a delivery. I'd be making about $100, $150 a day with deliveries. That was a Band-Aid job. It got me over a rough period into where I needed to be. It allowed for me to pay some bills. I get that. I'm not bashing any fashion. If you're working and you got to put meat on the table, there's no disgrace in working a job. Okay? But if you're at that point, sometimes you've got to make a leap. Sometimes I know one of the best things I ever did, I was working a job and they offered me a promotion and I said yes to the promotion. And then I got home and I was basically physically sick. And I was like, why am I sick? I'm like, because I realized I was giving up on my dream at that point. And I remember going back up to the office that night, talking to my boss who was still there. I said, listen, I appreciate the promotion, but I'm going to decline it. And he was pissed off. He was pissed off. He called me, you'll never be nothing. And I'm like, wow, that says enough right there. If you believe I'm not going to be anything, wow, because the fact I'm going to chase my dream, then I'm doing the right thing by leaving. And I can remember that. And I remember walking out of there and somebody told me I couldn't do anything. Well, that pissed me off. They gave me the boost to do what I needed to do to be successful. And I can remember that. Now, there's a story I don't tell very often. I'll tell you a funny story here. When I was running the mortgage company, I'd left Chase Bank as a personal banker at Chase. I was one of the better bankers in the state. Opened up about 9 different branches here in the Austin market. And I went to work as a mortgage company. I had a couple of years. It was really good, 4 years there. And I left that to start my own thing, start doing notes and real estate for the most part. And I was still in contact with my regional managers at Chase. And they would see what's going on. And I guess I sent an email out or something. And one of them reached out to me and said, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, it's going to get, it was kind of a lull, a valley in my note business. It was very low. I had gone a couple months without closing anything. Money was very tight for me. I wasn't married, been divorced at the time. And my boss says, really? I'm like, and we got to talking. She's like, I'd love to have you back. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And she's like, yeah, would love to have you. Seriously, if you like to, why don't you come in for an interview? I'm like, and I talked to a friend. They're like, well, why don't you? What hurt is it going to do for you to go in for an interview? Go into an interview and see what they have to offer. And so I remember getting dressed and pulling out a resume, putting on a monkey suit, and going in for this interview. And the friend who was the regional manager didn't show up. It was with some new guy at some new branch. It was a low-performing branch in Austin here. And I remember sitting there, and he's sitting there looking at my resume, and I guess he hadn't even communicated with the other lady. I remember going through that, and I was asking him questions about what the performance was of the bank and the numbers. And I literally realized about halfway through I was getting pissed off, extremely pissed off. And he's asking me, well, we'd love to have you start here. And I stood up. I remember standing up, and I reached over the table, and I grabbed my resume back from him. I said, you know what? I appreciate your time, but this is not for me. And I took the resume, I wadded it up, I dropped it in the trash can, and I walked out of the bank. And I get out of the bank, and I'm just fuming because somebody there was like, oh, we could start you off at $33,000. I'm like, really? I made more when I was there. I'm still making more even though I'm struggling now. And I got to the point where I was pissed off, and I got more and more pissed off. Before I got to my truck, I remember ripping off my tie, which is this yellow with blue cornflower colors in it, which is the Chase color, yellow and blue, okay? I remember ripping off that tie and freaking throwing it and running over and stomping on it and tearing it to the ground. I took off the jacket. I threw it in the bushes, untucked my shirt, and climbed in my truck and took off. I remember pulling out of the parking lot, and the manager and his staff was like watching me out the door, like, what the hell is this guy doing? This guy gone crazy. And it was one of the most liberating times. And I came back just pissed off. I got to place where I was working, and that next week I hit it doubly hard on what I was doing, calling banks and emailing out, and closed on a deal that made me $25,000 the next week, and everything was up from there. And sometimes you got to kind of go down. It was. I remember literally that sick feeling of crawling into that office and, oh, I'm giving up my dreams. I'm giving up what I want to accomplish. Oh God, I just feel dirty thinking about it right now. But I realized how pissed off I was walking out of there. And I come back, and I'm like, I worked hard. Sometimes we get so in the rut of trying to be successful at what we're doing. Sometimes we've got to take that step back and see what we have. Sometimes you got to take that step back to look at what you're doing and realize, okay, I need to tweak things here. I need to tweak things there. I'm not so good at this. I need to delegate this more. Okay. But that's the thing I can tell you more importantly about anything that you do, everybody. Value your time, value what you're doing, but don't waste your time. Every night before you go to bed, as you're sitting at the mirror there in the bathroom, brushing your teeth, or going to the restaurant, whenever you're looking at that mirror, ask yourself this: did I get stuff done today? Was I worth what my hourly was today? If your hourly worth is $50 an hour and you put in 8 hours, did I bring in $400 worth of value today? Did I bring in $1,000 worth of value today? And that's what you have to realize. At some point, not now, it may be a year, it may 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, at some day out there, you should all be worth 1,000. You should all have a comma in your hourly at some point. If you think about that, take what your hourly was right now. If it was 50, figure out what it would be for $1,000 an hour. So take that 1,000, put it by 40, that's 40 grand, all right, in a week. And then take that 40 grand times 4 weeks, that's 160 grand a month. And take 160 grand a month times 12. That's a pretty good return. Greg's over there figuring that real fast, aren't you, Greg? No, you're not. Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. All right. So figure that out. Let's figure that out real fast here. So we take, hang on here. If you were to take, okay, $1,000 an hour times 40, it's 40 grand a week, times 4 weeks in a month, 160 grand in a month, times 12 months. That's almost $2 million. It's $1.920 million. Okay? And now let's figure that out. If you want to make $1 million a year, divide that by 50 weeks. Oops. It means your week's got to be worth 50 grand. 50 grand divided by 40 hours means your hour's worth $1,250 an hour. Okay? So that's what you have to look at. Where are you at to where you want to be? Yes, I know it seems crazy if you've never made 6 figures. I get it. It's like, oh my God, I can't make that. Yeah, you can. Get better each day. Get 1% better each day. 1% better each day. 1% better each day at what you do. And eventually you look back and be, oh, I'm a whole lot better off than I ever was. I'm a whole lot better off than I was where I'm at today than I was a year from now. And yes, you're still going to have hiccups. You're still going to have things that kick you in the shins, kick you in the huevos, poke you in the eye. You're going to have things that happen. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All right? I'm not afraid of failure. I've failed before and I've recovered from it. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid if something happens and I have to start all over again tomorrow, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to recover. Yes, I might be eating top ramen for a few weeks. I might be doing some stupid shit. All right? I might have to make a run and sell some platelets of blood like I did in college, but I'm going to be okay. All right? I'm going to make it happen. And that's the most important thing. Is I know that it's scary sometimes when you're out there and you're running through things and you don't know what you don't know. But trust me, the more you network, the more you look to delegate as best you can, the happier you're going to be and the more money you're going to make. Any other questions for anybody?
Eric Hyde's really liking the topic.
Okay.
Everybody else is pretty much liking the topic.
That's good. Like good stuff. So one of the biggest things I can tell you is if you're watching this on the Facebook Live, you're listening to it, share one thing that you could delegate today. And if you're on the podcast, on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, whatever, think about one thing that you can delegate off to. What's one thing you can give somebody else to do to help you maximize your hour? If it's 30 minutes or an hour, or 4 hours a week, it still adds value to you. Okay? And look at what you're doing on a daily basis or weekly basis and see if you are living up to what you're making or you're really below what you're making. So one thing is a great way to learn some of the different activities of what maybe you need to delegate or learn from people who have delegated is Note Camp. Is our upcoming Note Camp convention in 2 weeks, October 12th through the 15th. I'm going to do something that I've never done for Note Camp before. For those that attend, yes, this is something different. Can we get a drum roll, please, here? Drum roll. I'm going to list in our base camp group for those that attend 10 different deal sources that they can get for deals. We share this sometimes. Actually, share this every time with a fast track. It's not everything true. But I'm going to share for those that get signed up for Note Camp 4.0. We'll list 10 different sources of assets that people can dive into, people that have lists, hedge funds, things like that, on the Sunday of base camp, a Sunday in base camp before we wrap it up for the day. We'll have several sources on. People that are selling assets on a regular basis will have those on Note Camp. I just spoke to a guy this morning who's going to be speaking on it, who has sources regularly. You're going to have investors on there that are closing deals, their source, but that's not who I'm going to consider. I'm literally going to give you 10 sources of assets that you can pick up from on a monthly basis. And that'll be a bonus that we'll share on Note Camp 4.0. So I've never done that before in the previous Note Camps. We're going to do that. As always, those that are all signed up for Note Camp 4.0, you'll get the registration list of everybody that's going to be there as well. So you can go to notecamp.live. That's notecamp.live and sign up for tickets today. Trust me, those sources alone are worth the price of admission. Not only to add the database of those that attend, those are two factors right there that are worth the price of admission. Not to mention the wealth of knowledge and nuggets you're going to get from all our amazing speakers. Jeff Watson, John Heer, Julian Sadati, Joel Markovitz, Brett Palumbo, George Anton, Sue Nelson. We got some heavy hitters going to provide some great content for everybody out there. So look forward to that. We have any other questions or comments from anybody before you wrap up? All right, guys and gals out there. Thank you for listening. Guys, if you're listening and you love the podcast, do us a huge favor. Help us help you by going on and leaving a review on iTunes or Stitcher or one of those podcast platforms. Do me a favor, go leave a review. We appreciate it. It allows us and sees us an opportunity of what you like and what we can perfect better, what we can do better at. We've got some really great interviews be coming over the next couple of weeks. Really excited about that. We're going to do some more case studies on some specific assets. We see that based on the trend, those are some of the things that people like the most, or some of our most downloaded episodes are the different case studies of notes and assets. And so Jen is already working through that here to go through some examples of stuff that we've worked on and closed in the last few months for you. Fresh assets, fresh case studies, nothing boring or recycled. So until tomorrow, or until the next episode, I want to thank you all for listening. Go out and make something happen, and keep working, guys, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody.